This is the next segment of the network. I'm Pat Freeman, and this is Chris Stevenson. How you doing, Chris?
What's going on, Pat?
We're going to talk a little bit about Frank Lucas, one of the greatest American gangsters in the history of this country, and some of the things that are misnomers about him. And he's been, featured in a couple of the latest films, and with him and his mentor, Bumpy Johnson.
Yes.
You're talking about a huge part of the puzzle of how drug trafficking became a major part of the 60s and before, and then up to today. What about Frank Lucas that is so intriguing, and a little bit about his relationship with Bumpy Johnson?
Well, Frank Lucas, for one thing, he's not the first one to bring heroin into the United States from Vietnam. He started in 1969.
Right.
The United States is bringing heroin from Vietnam back in the early 60s, probably 64, 65. But what makes him such an enigma was that he did it largely by himself. He cut out the middleman, no Italian or Jewish or whatever type of gangsters there. And he had a lot of people involved, primarily his brothers. It was him and his brothers that ran that organization. And before then, and this is going to what I've been hearing over the years, okay?
Right.
It was hard to get heroin, the hard drugs into Harlem.
Right.
They weren't really letting it in back in the 50s and the 40s. You got some stuff in there, marijuana or whatever, but the real hard stuff, they've been trying to put it into Harlem for the longest time, and it didn't really get there till the 60s. And Frank Lucas, the first one that really brought it into Harlem for the most part. But he made it into a business. He understood the nature of gangsterism, which was the business side of it. It wasn't just the violent side of it. He was very effective. So, like you said, his lineage goes back to people like Bumpy Johnson and people like that. And he was very down, low key, so to speak. So,
And Chris, it's also something too that we have to deal with is the effects of the modern drug trade on the black community. And Harlem has always been the torchbearer of how you see the black community across the nation.
Right.
How devastating was the drug trade in Harlem even prior to Frank Lucas coming to a rise of power? But it seems like he took a old idea and became not only the major player in Harlem and New York, but he began supplying the people that were doing it before him.
Yeah, I think so. He was a major player.